So I will go first with a brief introduction and the present situation of the Rohingya population in Bangladesh. And then I'll hand over to Professor Taufik to talk about more like the sustainable solutions and the challenges and way forward. So let me share my slide. So both Professor Taufik and I represent also the Center for Peace Studies that is based at North-South University, and we have recently completed a joint conference with International Humanitarian Studies Association. So let me get into the presentation. So with a brief background, I would start with a brief background about the Rohingya crisis. So it is at the moment one of the pressing humanitarian challenges in the region. And because of the mass displacement of the Rohingya people from Myanmar, and due to the geographic location, as Bangladesh has a border with Myanmar, and also from the humanitarian causes, Bangladesh provided the shelter to nearly 1 million Rohingya, which has placed significant strain on Bangladesh and on economy, resources, and social fabric. And there's a hope that the crisis will be resolved soon, but it's been many years now. So it started, the recent one started in 2017, and it's still going on without any sustainable solution. So the crisis is a complex one because it is more of a political one as we see, and also due to the recent global refugee crisis in various parts of the world, the Rohingya issue is now receiving less attention, especially particularly the Ukraine crisis recently. And obviously there are some other issues that is making the crisis more complex than ever because of the weakened negotiation power of Bangladesh, with especially with the Myanmar neighboring country, and also the regional player, powerful countries in the region. And the final one is unstable political environment in Myanmar. So all of you probably aware about the recent situation that is going on in Myanmar, and this sort of situation is also making it difficult for the repatriation of the Rohingya and other sort of short-term solution of this crisis. So if you now look into the historical overview of the Rohingya issues, we could see that it's not new. It started the late 1970s, and it's continued in the 1990s, and Bangladesh government back then, they started to get support from UNHCR to take the shelter of the Rohingya and also providing necessary supports. But in the past context, like most of the Rohingyas were being repatriated, if you see about 1990s case, and we still have some more than 30,000 Rohingya refugees who were living in 2 camps in Cox's Bazar. But these 30,000 Rohingya, they're being termed as the refugee. They're officially termed as refugee by Bangladesh government, but when we see these new refugees that came in 2017, they are not being termed as the refugee, rather than they've been termed as forcibly displaced Myanmar nationals. So that's the difference, and you can see the brief scenario here. So if we look into the more recent one, so the present population, Rohingya population, you can see about nearly 1 million in total in Bangladesh, and most of them are located in Cox's Bazar, especially in 2 sub-districts that is known as Ukhia and Teknaf. And to provide the support, there are about 150 national and international agencies that are working in these camps, and the Bangladesh government and various other government agencies are also involved to to support and to manage this huge population in these uh, camps. So if you now look into this population, that's a very recent data. It also shows that uh, 32,560 Rohingya, they're being relocated in Bhashanchar. There's a one remote island. So Bangladesh government, they have a plan to relocate nearly 100,000, but until the latest data that we received, like 31st of December 2023, this number of population is there. And also, if you look in the bottom part, these funding issues, like the top one is the total appeal from Bangladesh, but you can see that there's a gap, huge gap, like uh, nearly 50%, like 41% gap in funding issues to manage this huge population. So that is creating a huge strain and the difficulties for the Bangladesh government. And if you now look into the camp settlement, so there are about 34 camps altogether in the beginning. Now it's in 33. And because nearly a population of one camp is being shifted to Vashanchar, you can see the number. So these are the mostly densely populated camps there. And the camps are generally located in the hilly areas and the forest land. And these are very disaster prone area, especially during the monsoon and cyclone. And the past few years, we have seen this impact of this kind of disasters in the camps. And still, we know that the various agencies and the government are providing various support, life-saving support, but there's a need for enormous life-saving essential services as well. Safety issues, security issue, and dignity is also an issue because in many cases, if you think about the lifestyle that the Rohingya are having in the camps, they're not the life that they had it in their hometown. So there's a sense of a dignity as well. So, and also some safety and security issues are there. Also, I'll come back to that later on, how different media portrays these issues. So it creates a complex humanitarian landscape for the Rohingya living in the camps. So despite all these limitations, the government of Bangladesh is leading the response. And you can see the Ministry of Public Administration, the deployed number of government officials to manage the camps. And each of the camp has one in charge. So the in charge generally come from the Bangladesh government. So they're the mid-level officers. And also about the security people from military personnel, that is called APBN, Additional Military Personnel, Bangladesh. And also there are some border guard people as well, personnel, and also the other departments are involved in ensuring the infrastructure management and providing other supports. And now if you look into the what sort of policy that where Bangladesh government is deploying to deal with, to manage this huge population. So the main objective is to sustainable return of the Rohingya by creating conducive environment in Myanmar. And there's other issues in the camp, like ensuring the human rights issue, providing basic needs and support, and also two other things like trying to understand the root causes of this problem and holding as a perpetrators of genocide to make it accountable. So these are the overarching issues, and also Bangladesh is continuing to its bilateral dialogues with Myanmar, and also recently Bangladesh started its multilateral efforts as well, and also the legal issues is going on as well. So when we talk about the policy, but Bangladesh at the moment are continuing or seeing this Rohingya crisis from the ad hoc basis. So there is not doesn't exist a comprehensive policy yet. So based on the previous experience. So the whole issues of Rohingya has been seen as ad hoc basis, and the influx or the situation based on the situation in the past. And we're still continuing with that process. So with that process in 1992, uh, uh, the Office of Refugee Relief and Repatriation Commissioner, that is known as RRC, was set up. And RRC is in charge of the whole management of the camps in Cox's Bazar and other refugees in that region. So after that, like in 2013, like when Bangladesh started to witness other influxes, regular influxes from Myanmar, the Rohingya refugees influxes, so that time they started to build up a national strategy paper. And in 2013, that was developed and drafted. And this 5-page strategy paper is the only written document that we have so far, and that is being used as the guiding document in 2017 Rohingya refugees management. But there is recently a new dialogue is going on that whether Bangladesh can develop a comprehensive policy to deal with the refugee issues that focusing on the Rohingya crisis, and that hasn't completed yet. So hopefully we'll be able to see it soon. And then Bangladesh government, they decided to develop a national task force that to manage it very comprehensive manner, the whole Rohingya community in the camps, and also another forum that is being established that is known as Intersector Coordination Group. And this group deals with any sort of evolving issues that come into these management issues. So, and also they look after the all other sectors of the Rohingya refugee crisis, for example, education, health, camp management, gender issues, children and adolescent issues. So they sit every month and they involve all the stakeholders. They're working the ground level, including national agencies and also uh, um, non-governmental, national and international non-governmental organizations. But despite all of this, we think that there is still need of overarching and comprehensive policy with a detailed plan of action to deal with this Rohingya crisis. So these are the overall task and responsibility of the uh, RRC. So I'm not going into that detail. So you could see that the management at the camp level, managing, liaising with different agencies, stakeholders in the community level, and also coordinating the NGOs, those that are working with the various UN funded and the national or international funded projects. They deal with all of these. And at the same time, when you talk about these other activities, so Bangladesh government is also thinking, and to some extent, they started in a very small scale, like skill development project. So the idea of initiating the skill development project is to um, creating this huge population into a manpower. But the problem, the question remains like, without integration, is it possible if we have that sort of skill? But the idea is that this kind of skill can be used when they would be repatriated to their home. So as Bangladesh government is not yet in favor of integration, and there are some challenges in the education issues. There are lots of debates that are going on, like what sort of academic curriculum that need to be provided in the camp level. Will they go into the higher studies if they need to? But these are the questions that remain in very uh, not very clear at the moment. But because they do not have any opportunities to go to higher studies from the camps. But recently, Burmese language is being incorporated to the education system so that they can learn their own language. So the huge number of young population do not get out of their social cultural context. So, and within that whole process, there's one growing concern is we've been witnessing, that is the declining sympathy from the host community. So although, as I mentioned in the beginning, that Bangladesh government and the people, they overwhelmingly supported this whole community, but after this 7 years, nearly 7 years, um, when they're saying that there's no hope or no sign of repatriation and no sign of a sustainable solution, we see that there's a growing declining sympathy from the host community. And there, because of some of the issues that based on our research, we could see that some of the issues that they're raising, like imbalance to the local wage and labor market, although the Rohingya community, they're not entitled to work and go outside the camp, but it is being noticed that many Rohingyas, they're coming out of the camp and they started to work under very lower age. So that is creating difficulty to find jobs for the local Bangladeshi day laborers. So that is impacting on their life. And ecological imbalance is there. You can see about the whole set of green zone and the hilly areas and being converted to camps. Security and social insecurity is there. Drug and trafficking are going on according to the different news activities, and also criminal activities and conflicts are going on, sometimes within their own Rohingya groups and sometimes between the Rohingya and the host community. And there's another point that the many host community people think that the Rohingya will take over the control on the areas in the near future. There's again, it's more of their perception, and they come up with this huge, because of the demographic shock. Because if you look into the total population, which is nearly 1 million of the Rohingya, but combining these two sub-districts like Ukhia and the Teknaf, the host community population is less than that number. And this some of the portrayal, like how we see that the media is portraying Rohingya community, like you can see on the title of these, and many of them are true. You know that the many Rohingya, they're taking risky drive to move from Cox's Bazar to many other countries, and also involvement of crime. And when we did one research on the media analysis of the Rohingya community, we've seen that the both national and local newspaper, they're more interested in portraying the negative news regarding the Rohingya, as if they're all of the Rohingyas are doing the same sort of activities. But we forget sometimes that they cannot do this kind of work without the help of the host community. So this sort of negative portrayal of the Rohingyas are going on, and we see that this sort of negativity will not bring any positive impact to the crisis. Rather, like it will create further problems, especially if we think from the social cohesion between these two communities, Rohingya and the host community. And they continue to develop negative perception between these two communities. So these are all some sort of news that we're seeing, and some violent clashes and some other illegal or unlawful activities are going on. So these are some of the issues that we're witnessing. So my point would be at this point that rather than demonizing the Rohingya, we should think about how we can bring a peaceful coexistence between these two communities, at least during their staying in Bangladesh and different Rohingya camps, and until we see the sustainable resolution. So now I would like to invite Professor Tawfiq to bring out his insight on the sustainable resolution and solution to the Rohingya crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bulbul. Let me share the screen first. As you can understand with the Bulbul's presentation, that this is a very complex problem, and having a solution of a complex problem is also must be very complicated and very difficult to find out. So as he was telling you that this is primarily a political problem, but also this is a humanitarian issue. It's a crisis. It's also a geopolitical problem. So we would like to see the solution part from all aspects, that how this problem can be solved in the near future, from humanitarian point of view, from human rights point of view, from geopolitical point of view, and also from the bilateral and multilateral relationship with different countries related with this problem. I just want to let you know that Center for Peace Studies has been working on this issue of Rohingya problem since its inception, and our researchers, they have published tons of journal articles, books, chapters. And recently, I just want to show you that we published a book from Routledge, me and Bulbul, and another of our faculty, The Displaced Rohingya, A Tale of Vulnerable Community. And actually, we tried to find out all these aspects in the book. It's actually covered starting from the historical, cultural kind of analysis up to the foreign policy solutions with these different 14 chapters. So I would probably just let you know some of the challenges that the solutions, the probable solutions are having, and then we'll keep it open for you to decide, and probably having some debate if there's possible in the Q&A. So from a sustainable solution point of view, we are actually looking into the well-being of the Rohingya, and also the long-term kind of, so it's a mid-term and short-term solution, and then the long-term is repatriation, relocation or resettlement, or integration. So there are lots of debates going on in Bangladesh society and policymakers and stakeholders that whether this is either or it can be all together, that we take care of their well-being and then we prepare for their repatriation, but also some sort of resettlement and also some sort of integration. I will come one by one. What are the shortcomings and limitations of all these approaches? Again, these are some of the models you can understand. When we talk about well-being, we need to think about ensuring basic needs, human rights, effective management, and ensuring funding, which is very important. And this requires a coordinated effort, national to regional and international level. But one of the major issues is that Bangladesh decided from the very beginning in 2017, when they started coming, that Bangladesh will not recognize them as refugees. So, and that's why a new term was invented at that time, which is called FDMN, forcibly displaced Myanmar nationals. And why Bangladesh government did it? We had so many policy dialogues and debates with government policymakers, and they said that we are not a rich country. We already have 170 million people. We cannot take this burden, and if we give them the refugee status, then we'll have to give them all the rights. And since Bangladesh is not a signatory of the refugee conventions, so they took this as an opportunity and kind of not giving these things. And that's why this is again a kind of a dilemma between international humanitarian obligation versus the national sovereignty issue. So government decided to take side with the more like national interest issue, but there are lots of pressure from international communities and also some national civil society leaders to that government should also oblige by the international humanitarian commitments, that we are part of the broader international community. When you talk about the long-term ongoing effort, as I said, that there are majorly, there are three solutions: repatriation, integration, resettlement in the third country. And the role of international community comes as a kind of a consequence of all these three processes. I'll go one by one, like what are the challenges? So we'll be seeing that my title for the repatriation is it a myth or reality? Because it is almost 7 years and not a single Rohingya has been repatriated. So very frustrating, very pessimistic, very bleak situation in a sense. But if you look into the history, as also Bulbul was telling you, that previous cases suggest that repatriation is possible, because we repatriated at least few 100,000 Rohingyas in the 80s and 90s. But 2017 onward situation is different from those times. And it looks like that the more the days are passing, it looks like that it's becoming a more kind of a wishful thinking that they will be repatriated very soon. There are many reasons. We have weak diplomatic efforts from our side, maybe. There are also lack of willingness of the regional and global powers, India, China's role, even the big powers. And also you can understand that this, as I was mentioning, that this is also a part of the geopolitics, because every time Myanmar government, the junta, was taken to the UN Security Council for a kind of a strong resolution, the Russian and Chinese veto saved them from those kind of the situation. So even though majority of the countries in the world, they are trying to put lots of pressure on Myanmar, but because of the support of primarily China, but also from Russia, and also sometimes from India, the Myanmar, the current government, or also the previous government, they could bypass those pressure. And we also need to mention that Myanmar is a regime, not the military regime and the previous regimes also, that who are living with sanctions for many, many years. So the economic sanctions and other kind of sanctions could not change the course of action before, and probably it will also be very difficult to see that by sanctions whether their action will be changed. Even the kind of human rights kind of court procedures that we are seeing in the ICJ, International Court of Justice, yes, they are a little bit worried, but not that much, because they are not as connected as many other countries globally. So they don't care about that, what the broader international community are thinking about them. So these are the kind of a background why we are saying that the repatriation is becoming more difficult. And now that current situation, if you look into the situation in last 1.5 years, and especially last 3 months after the military coup, Myanmar's having the worsened instability and raising safety concerns for returning Rohingya. So, and now we are seeing that many of the border towns in Myanmar are now being captured by the rebel groups and the ethnic minority fighters. Even recently, just for last few days, Bangladesh border, we are seeing problems with the Myanmar side, and that last day before yesterday, 95 Myanmar border guards, they flew to Bangladesh and then they surrendered their arms there. So this kind of the thing are basically creating more uncertainty for the repatriation, that because if Myanmar becomes more unstable in coming days, the possibility of repatriation will be very difficult. I will come to that points in the later stage. So this question of the citizenship, question of their kind of respected return and safety security are becoming a little bit more concerned issue for now. From repatriation point of view, again, if we see that till now, whatever Bangladesh has done is basically a China-driven repatriation initiative. We banged on China, and for obvious reason, because China is the country which has the most influence on the Myanmar governments, in any Myanmar governments, this one or the previous, the democratic one, or anyone, because the historical reason, China has the longest border with Myanmar, and also economic investment, geopolitical, military investments are there. So we tried to do it, but that didn't work. There was a tripartite agreement, there was a different kind of the agreements, but at the end, there was no repatriation. So that's one part of the problem, that we are seeing that China tried it, but failed. Then now we are seeing that national unity government is getting more popular as an alternative government, and their official positions are very positive. We from Center for Peace Studies invited them in several occasions. Their ministers, even last week we had a discussion on Myanmar's current situation, where the national unity government president's spokesperson came and talked and discussed, and they said that officially they are declining, that they are in favor of giving citizenship to Rohingya if they can take over the power, and also they are claiming that they will ensure the full repatriation. But again, if you talk with the Rohingya people, they are a little bit suspicious, because these are the people, in NUG, the leadership are the same who were in the previous democratic regime, and during their tenure time as ruler, they did not support repatriation, they did not support this kind of citizenship. But maybe because of now the international pressure, they have changed their position, but we want to see it as a very positive kind of thing. Other issue of the repatriation in future would be depending on the role of Arakan army, because these are the main forces now within Arakan, and they are getting more very strong day by day, and at least 50% of the Arakan are now controlled by them. And if that situation continues, then probably any repatriation dialogue, discussion, negotiation, they should also have a part. And I'm not sure that how it will be evolving in future. But again, Arakan army definitely will be a party, and we will not be able to deny them in any future negotiation for repatriation. Challenges for resettlement relocation. These are not very viable because in past scenarios, we have seen that resettlement of the Rohingya in third countries is very minimum number. So because this, you can see that 920 out of 1,997 requests were accepted in various countries from 2006 to 2010. And still the number is very, very limited. So when we are talking about 1 million and only few hundreds are going abroad for resettlement, so that's not a sustainable solution. And so that's why we are not very hopeful about it. That's why I'm just skipping this part. Now come to the another probable solution, that if the repatriation takes longer period of the time, they will be living here. So there are already discussion about that integration, even though in the policy environment in Bangladesh, integration is a word like a taboo. You cannot use the word integration. Government will be very unhappy to hear the word integration. But then this is a reality now. If I just so that there are tension between host and Rohingya community, as Dr. Bulbul was presenting. But more and more there are understanding and realization that probably without some sort of integration, this community will be a burden for Bangladesh in future. But again, the challenges of the integration, as already mentioned, is a declining sympathy, and that's natural. Globally, it happens whenever the refugees come from another country to other country. Initially, the support and the sympathies are quite high, but then it started to diminish. And also the media campaign, the negative media campaign is also a kind of a factor that affect the sympathy and portrayal of these things. And so these are the kind of a challenge for the integration, but also there are one of the challenges, they are kind of a legal identity, unless and until they will be identified as a refugees. So even a proposal of integration will be very difficult to implement, because we are still terming them as a forcibly displaced Myanmar national. We talked about demographic shock, Bulbul already mentioned, and also demonizing the Rohingya issue. So I'm not repeating those things again. From Bangladesh point of view, because we are having so much internal socioeconomic problems, so people in general, they are not in favor of integration. And also cohesion is an issue, and also the fear of job competition, cultural differences, those all are impacting on the this issue of discussion on integration. So now I would like to come to the concluding part of my presentation, that what are the recommendations that we can tell. Yes, maybe it's a combination of three, as I was telling, that repatriation is the ultimate solution. We'll have to try for that. We have to continue our effort for that, bilateral, multilateral, putting pressure on Myanmar and all these things. But also, since we can understand, because of the current Myanmar's internal political and security situation, if it takes longer time, we'll have to think about a little bit also of the relocation, but also some sorts of skill development, capacity building development kind of the schemes for the Rohingya refugees, so that they can start doing something. They can start getting their right to education, right to work, and other kind of thing. So develop a national plan for refugee management. So that's one recommendation that we have put forward. Acknowledge the potential long-term duration of Rohingya crisis. We'll have to understand, we'll have to admit that they are going to stay here. They are not going to go back very soon, probably, even though That's a very harsh reality, but we have to accept that. Ensure the Rohingyas' rights and basic needs, as you already said, and view Rohingya not as a burden, but as a potential human resources initiating various skills. And for solving the problem of tension between host and refugee community, an inclusive approach can be taken, like at least 25% of the total fund allocated for any Rohingya-related project can be given to the neighboring host community, and it is already been started by international agencies and others, and through that we can ensure the social cohesion. My last slide will be a kind of a little bit controversial and contentious idea that also has come into the discussion recently because of Myanmar's recent military situation, security situation. Is there any military solution of this problem? Because whatever we have discussed till now, these are non-military kind of a thing. Why this military solutions issue has come into the discussion in the policy forum? Because Bangladesh talked about this before. In 2017, our Prime Minister, when she joined the United Nations General Assembly, she talked about creating buffer zone near the Myanmar border by the consensus of the international community, maybe creating a no-fly zone. Some discussion was there. And you all are aware probably that there is Burma Act that the United States enacted in last year. And even though it has talked about non-supporting the ethnic military separatist group with the non-lethal weapons and also training and other things, but we never know that how it will be evolving. And the internal situation, I can tell you, I visited Myanmar last December, just 2 months back, and I was in Yangon, and I talked with some of the local leaders there, even the opposition leaders who are now in hide, and also tried to talk with the general people. So there are worry about the situation that what is evolving there. And there's one of possibility that people are talking about is the balkanization of Myanmar. And if that happens, that some part of the Myanmar is controlled by the ethnic arms groups, some part is controlled by junta, some part is controlled by NUG. So in that situation, what would be the fate of the Rohingya? So we don't know about those things. So, but this kind of the discussions, I do understand these are controversial discussions, that whether any military solution can be part of the solution package of the Rohingya situation. But some people are raising this because otherwise it can be 17 years, as some of you probably know, that the PAREX analysis have shown that average encampment of displaced population in 70 years. It has been shown by the different refugee crises globally. So I don't know the answer. I just raised these things in front of you, and I just can hope that we can have more in-depth and collaborative understanding and discussion and debate by the academician, by the policymakers, and by the experts to find out a real sustainable solution for the Rohingya people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tawfiq. Thank you, Bulbul, for a very interesting, holistic, multi-decade look at a complex governance challenge that is actually developing very quickly at the moment. So it's a timely intervention from you. I would like to invite Zainab and Anila to present a short reflection on what they have seen, some of the issues raised, how it maybe connects with wider issues of forced migration, diversity, conflict. And after that, we'll have some time for some questions.
Okay, I will go first, and this is how we also agreed. Thank you very much for this very detailed presentation of the complex situation. Indeed, it's clearly one of those protracted situations. And coming from Turkey and working on the situation in Turkey and the borders of Turkey with neighboring countries, I see a lot of similarities with the case, of course, from the host state perspective. And clearly geopolitics play a huge role, as you very well described, how it's been visibilized or how it's been dealt with, and the position of Bangladesh vis-a-vis neighboring countries and in these global efforts as well. I recently completed a special issue together with other colleagues that I guest edited in the Journal of Refugee Studies on durable solutions on humanitarian migrants. And so my question will come from one of the contributions actually in that special issue. Francesco Tonarelli from UN Habitat was talking about that in the webinar where we discussed this. And in the article also with his colleagues, they're reflecting on the situation in Kenya, Somalia, and he himself worked later in Cox's Bazar. And the reflection that he gave really now sticked with me at that time, how things were possible in other places would not at all been even considered as an opportunity, as an option in Cox's Bazar. And the approach is basically the focus is more on the local integration, I understand, as one of the most immediate and urgent midterm solution, at least in this case. And I would like to also invite you to reflect or tell us a little bit more about that option, because it is at least the most urgent from the perspective of displaced population, as well as the population who's hosting this big community. To what extent are there really efforts in terms of pushing for local integration? And I understand indeed this fatigue, compassion fatigue is, as you very well pointed at, Professor Haq, as global. It's nothing peculiar to Bangladeshi context. We see the same in other communities that are hosting big displaced populations. But at the same time, how much effort is being spent by the local authorities is a question, or national authorities indeed, is something we need to further discuss maybe. And I'm asking this especially because you described a situation where there are 33 camps that are located in the border, more like segregated areas, so to say, where people are not allowed to live, to work, and build up their lives. Are there any efforts on that front to allow mobility, at least in the country? What would be the implications of this kind of mobility? And in terms of also cohabitation, right? At this moment, this Venn diagram clearly shows that communities are having ideas and most often stereotypes about each other, which derives mostly from either negative experiences or derives from no experience too. And the fact that the population has to be contained in a certain designated area, whichever this population is, will create similar problems, of course. If that was the Bangladeshi population, we would probably have similar kind of criminality emerging after a while, similar kind of lack of resources and problems coming with that. So I'm curious to hear a little bit about this, if there are any efforts in terms of it can be political from the policy world, but also scholarly world, push for mobility of this population. And this is also related to a little bit the conclusion we reached in this special issue, GRS special issue, that most often the solutions that we are looking for are so place-bound, repatriating to a location, right, or integrating at a location, whereas many people have actually mobile lives, and that is for various different reasons. They grow in the role that they have in the family, or they have to diversify their livelihoods. Also, many different reasons actually require mobility. But the solutions we are envisioning are often place-bound, and that really clashes with more durable solutions to protracted situations. So I would be very interested to hear if there are any efforts on that front in this crisis situation. Thank you.
In terms of this mobility issue that One of the challenges that Bangladesh government or the policymakers are facing is that that Bangladesh is one of the most highly densely populated countries in the world. We are having 170 million people living in a very small piece of land. So that's the one concern, and that's why the camps have been fenced, and government is always trying to keep them isolated. And the Bhashanchar, again, this is again a debatable, controversial kind of initiative by many of the development partners and international agencies. They were initially not in favor of relocating them to an island very far from the mainland and totally detached from the community. But again, as I can tell you that one of the major concerns that the government has is that if they are being allowed to be mobile, and then they will be, because there are so many similarities in terms of also their ethnographic and also a little bit also linguistic similarities. And so those are the concerns to keep them in confined area, and that's that we are also we are having a discussion and debate with the policymakers that those are creating more problems than solution, that confining, because we are having a huge number of population. Then that the young population in the camps, especially the kids and also the adolescents, are huge in number, and usually they are 17 to 25 years of age, and this has been called the military age of any population. And since they don't have any education, they don't have any employment, they don't have anything to do, so there are all possibilities that they can be radicalized, they can be prone to drugs and human trafficking. And human trafficking is becoming, and because this mobility is not been allowed, and that's why every day the human trafficking is happening. So these are not solving the problem. So some sort of mobility, as you suggested, should be arranged, and as we also think that, and but also keeping the national concern that so that they cannot just integrate with the whole society, because there is a question of also marriage and all that kind of the thing, and all these things have been happening, or getting the fake identities like fake passports with the Bengali names and Bengali identities and all this. This is a very good suggestion, and I'm sure that this should be debated more and discussed, and so we should try to find out some sort of solution, because keeping them confined at places, the reason that the government is doing that, objectives are not been fulfilled even from government point of view. So I think this should be revisited.
Thank you, Taufik. I'd like to invite Anila to reflect now on the presentation, or perhaps the answer, or perhaps something related.
And thank you so much. And thank you so much for both speakers to share. And I totally agree. This is very complex situation. And being a refugee advocate on a global level, being involved in global compact of refugees, we saw this kind of camp situation, which has so much multi-layers complexity. It's not happening even in Bangladesh, but also happening in other part of the world, like Kukuma or other Sudani situation. I would like to say this. When I was listening to the presentation, I felt that there's so many complexity when it's come to having refugees to feel safe, and how host communities facing threat, a fear that refugees who are here, they are stealing their jobs, and refugee being put as a vulnerable, not recognizing their potential, and also how the narrative of migration. So trust me, the same thing happened even in Europe. In 2015, being located in Europe, in Netherlands, we felt the same. So my request, how we can go beyond this narrative of refugees, so how we can bring back the human empathy element when we are talking about refugee. This is till today is missing, and we saw how narratives, how these images of refugees being dehumanize the situation. This is my first question. And second question, in December, I was part of Global Refugee Forum, which happened second time in Geneva. And global community global gathering, they are working a lot. They're pledging. There have been more than 1,600 pledges made in Global Refugee Forum, and obviously Rohingya crisis Bangladesh situation was there. One of the pledges where they are talking about how we can bring self-reliance, how we can bring complementary pathways, how we can bring more age, gender diversity in terms of solution, and how we can bring, most importantly, refugee voices on the table. How we can bring, when on the local level, national plan is happening, when there's some kind of new mechanism are being made, how we can bring refugees voices on the table, refugee diverse leadership in discussion, how they feel more valued, how they feel more involved. So what's your suggestion about those implementation is happening, cutting down and breaking down global to region, region to local? This is, even I saw this has been not working, not functioning. So how you suggest how we can make sure the global accountability factor, how we can make sure actors who are working very actively on global level and pledging, but when we come to the local level, the implementation is not happening. So how we can create more accountable lens towards solutions? Thank you.
Thank you, Anila. Maybe Tawfiq or Babu would like to give a short answer to that, and then I apologize due to the limitations of the of this webinar. We don't have time for a full Q&A.
Maybe Bulbul can also follow through, but from my side, Anila's questions are very valid, and I think for the humanizing this, the issue that you raised, that the humanizing the whole refugee thing, it was, in case of the Rohingya, it was from the very beginning, it was naturally came because of many reasons. That one of the main reasons is the religious similarity, that Rohingyas were Muslims. In Bangladesh, 90% are Muslims. So when they came in 2017, they were overwhelmingly welcome, because people thought that these are our brothers and sisters. They were killed, they were raped, and we have a human responsibility, religious responsibility to help them. And it was there, and it is there. I must say that to give respect to the people of this Bangladesh, that this feeling is still there. So it's not that that's been totally diminished. But the challenge is that the people are seeing that Bangladesh economy is now struggling. Comparing in 2017, we are having so many economic burdens, and then the people are also thinking that how long we can keep this going. So these are the kind of a thing. But from the political point of view and the policy point of view, I fully agree with you that the human side of the problem should be given more focus, and that's a very good suggestion. But then that's the second thing that you raised about these voices of the Rohingyas, or the voices of the refugees, and these are missing here in Bangladesh, and that's unfortunately in many times. I'm sure the civil society organizations and NGOs, international agencies, the policies are made without keeping them in the loop. Whatever the policy Bangladesh is taking, all of the whenever this repatriation initiatives have been taken by Bangladesh, China, Myanmar, the Rohingyas' participation was almost nil or zero, and that's the problematic, because they know best that when to go back and how to go back, in which situation they are ready to go back. And because of this lack of Rohingya voices being reflected in the policy, we are seeing that these repatriations are not happening, because government is signing agreement, but the Rohingyas are not ready to go back, because they're saying that if we go back, still there are chances that we'll be killed or raped, because the safety, security, and dignified return situation has not been ensured. So again, that we can demand, we can ask to the governments, but we don't know that whether they will listen or not, because the accountability at the government level, at the international, national, and the local level, is very much power politics and political dynamics are in play. So I'm not sure that we should raise our voices for ensuring accountability, as you are saying that there are so many places by the international communities, but then when actually it comes to the commitment and the implementation, it is probably less than half. And because of the global crisis, the Ukraine crisis, the money is dying down. And so these are the kind of things. But I think the scholars, the civil society leaders, the NGO activists, they should keep asking these questions and ask for the accountability at the all level, from international, national to the local level. Thank you.
Can I add little, Tom? Thank you, Anila, and thank you, Janet. So starting with the policy, like in developing nations, it's very common that voices of the what we say, vulnerable community, poor people, or the in this context, the refugees or displaced population, they don't count, or they don't have that access, like, and which is not very difficult, different in our country. So in our webinar, we also mentioned that we should bring out those voices. What exactly Rohingya population think about, what would be the next priority, right? So then their participation is nowhere there. So that's, we as a humanitarian researchers, activists, we try to promote that, and we all the time we propose that we should bring those voices more and more. And from the chat box, one question that why this Muslim Brotherhood humanity changing into hostility. I think one of the reasons behind that, like the host community in the beginning, they thought that, okay, this would be temporarily like temporal problem. So this population will be able to go back to their home country after some days. And they also know that in previous time, most of the Rohingyas are being repatriated, but it's been nearly 7 years. That's another point, I think, the main point, that the host community is feeling some sort of neglect at the same time. Like all these international communities are focusing on them, and the host community, like most of them are living below the poverty line. They are not receiving much. Instead, they had to invest their land in many cases. Although these are many of the lands are owned by the government, but there was a like dependency with the hill area and the forest for the local community. There is a dependency in their living. So that was disrupted. Economic condition, jobs are there, and also the negative portrayal of the Rohingyas are also acting highly. So these are the issues that is happening, making it more complex than ever. So that's what we can see. So, and last point that I would like to say, that rather than seeing this whole population as a burden, we need to focus more on how we can make it a manpower, right? So what can be done to do that? So in that context, we need to have coordinated effort, not only from Bangladesh. It has to be involved like regional countries and also the powerful countries, including the UN. Thank you.